Hello, it's episode 57, and the game didn't save. It saved just after the mission, but it didn't save. Like, we were down here about to do the Forsaken mission. It didn't save that for some reason. I do not know why. The same things. The same things should happen again, though. Either way, actually, to be honest, so this is a sponsored campaign, and it was sponsored for 2 months. Star Sign, I owed you 2 months, and so that's 60 episodes. And here we are at episode 57, and this has just been the most painful experience. Because just Phoenix Point is just riddled with garbage. So I went back and I reviewed the previous episode, and those enemies did indeed show no beam gun. Now, while all of them, generally speaking, almost all of them have the beam gun, sometimes when you encounter ruins, it says, and this was the case with this mission, it says, oh, many of the enemies are damaged. And so sometimes the beam gun just isn't there. It just isn't there. And that's what I thought was the case there, because we had enemies with shields missing, with either one or both shields missing, or with the drill missing, or some with the drill but nothing else. Anyway, when I did the info on those enemies, it did indeed show that they had no beam gun. But then, as soon as they fired the beam gun, then it appeared, and it's just another stupid thing. I don't know if this is base game or it's mod. I don't remember parts of enemies being like shown as not there and then suddenly appearing in the base game, but it might have been a base game thing. But it's just another case of the UI lying to you. And how can you make good decisions when the UI is constantly lying to you? That's the most frustrating and annoying part about it all. Is, if you've got the UI lying to you, how are you going to make good decisions?
The disciples of New Haven is under attack.
And if the UI is going to lie to you, then, make it clear. But generally speaking, a game's UI should never lie to you. If there's going to be some mystery or whatever, then, put a box with a question mark in it or something. Show that there is the possibility that the information that you have is not correct. Because in this type of game, in these types of games, you always presume that the information that you've been given is correct. But in this, half the time, it's not correct. Which is, absolutely frustrating to deal with. Absolutely pure frustration. I don't know what else to add than that. You know, I think strategically, the Legacy of the Void is a strategic improvement in that it has smoothed out all the, you know, festering skies and the corruption and the Andalusian ruin stuff. It's all been smoothed out and it's all unlocked over time, and that's a great improvement. The behemoth not going around destroying buildings is also a great improvement. I actually, when Festering Skies came out just a few days later, I think it was a few days later or a few weeks or months later or whatever, I actually suggested doing something similar. Some of this stuff, some of these Void Omens are really irritating. Like, you know, attacks on havens are twice as frequent, and the way that they stack together. So it's like twice as frequent attacks with halved diplomatic rewards and hostile defenders. Many of these are annoying, but I mean, I guess they wanted to add mutators into the game. That's fine. That's my only real complaint about the strategic side, is some of these are a bit crazy. Like this attacks on havens being twice as frequent is just really annoying, because, you know, stuff is under attack all the time. This was an even fight, but now it looks like the disciples are going to lose it. There we go. I need to actually review all these characters anyway if I was to carry on playing. So this, you know, the mod does improve the strategic side of the game, for sure. In my opinion, it's overall an improvement. Some of these are a bit crazy, but other than that, I think it's okay. But the tactical side of the game is worse, in my opinion. And it's lots of things. But one key one, I think one thing that this mod really taught me, which is not something I really thought about, is in the base game, when you get characters, you see like shotgun perk with 25% damage, or sniperist with like extra sniper rifle damage or whatever. Your mind is thinking of all the interesting possibilities that could come about from those characters. Every character is unique and interesting. All of the perks are really powerful and cool. Maybe not all of the perks, but most of the perks are powerful and cool. Maybe the one that's what was it? There was one that was just plus damage and minus accuracy that was a bit like of a mixed bag. But anyway, if you got one of the weapon perks, PDW, shotgun, sniper, heavy weapon, whatever, you got that perk on a character, you would build around that perk. That perk became that character's identity. Sometimes you'd even see like mixed nice perks, and then you'd have to kind of think about how you wanted to develop that character. And this game just doesn't have that. It just doesn't have that interest. other than the amount of missions they've been to and therefore the amount of SP that they've got,
Haven destroyed.
characters are just not that exciting. They're just not interesting. They don't, you know, you don't sit down and look at, this character and think, oh, they've got proficiency with melee weapons. I'm going to build them around that. Because it's just the ability to use melee weapons. It's not... There's no damage bonus. So basically, they have the Berserker's ability, but assaults don't have dash in this case. So it's not anything special, particularly. I mean, a assault with sniping is quite a nice combination, but it's not anything special. And of course, assaults, as I said before, assaults don't have dash now, so they can't scout. In fact, there's no real scouting tool in the game except to have great stats. So your characters are just generic. They're just not interesting. They're not exciting. You're not thinking about all the possibilities. The generification of stuff is really, really sucks the interest out of the game. It's like, the perfect example of this is the Disciples of Anu handgun. Here it is. This in the base game costs 2 AP to fire and does 100 damage. And they just made it the same as any other handgun. You know, what's the... Yeah, it does shred, like 5 shred, but you know, the interest of the weapon is just gone. In my opinion, the excitement that, you know, having a the excitement of having a you know, powerful handgun, and then thinking to yourself, oh, you know, maybe there's some abilities where pistols only cost 1 AP to fire or 2 AP to fire, but you can fire them 3 times in a row or whatever. That might be cool with that handgun. But obviously the creators of this thought about that and got rid of it. But why? But why get rid of it? Why genericize everything? It's like, I mean, look at the weapons. I mean, this is like the base game. The base game has this problem as well, but this is where the perks came in to make things interesting. Now, obviously, the did those 5 rounds just disappear? No, there they are. The it's not just the perks and stuff. It's also the addition of lots of abilities that just do nothing. They are completely uninteresting. They don't do anything. Such as I mean, Die Hard doesn't seem that exciting. Also, just because you survive with 1 HP doesn't mean that the next enemy isn't going to just finish the job. Also, it's not even guaranteed, it's a chance to survive. It's not 100%. You know, kill and run, you can only use it once per turn. But the really boring ones are ones like, this character is slightly more immune to acid. This character is slightly more immune to fire. Or this character is goo resistant. I suppose goo resistance is, you know, more interesting, but goo is quite rare in its own right. Funnily enough, I don't... Oh, this is another one, endurance. The problem is that if you're recovering and you're covered in acid, poison and bleeding, you take all that at the start of your turn. So it doesn't... I mean, it helps you if you survive to clear it, but otherwise it doesn't. And poison and bleeding can be removed with a medkit anyway. The willpower bonus is nice, but there's just lots of perks like this that are just kind of like... very Even this like Condo Raider, which is... it's semi-interesting, but it's only one floor, and I'm going to presume it's only one of the lowest floors. So that's not even going to be that interesting. Right, shred damage is reduced by half. But enemies are going to cut through your armor like butter anyway, so... that doesn't exactly feel good. Characters just feel very, very generic. I think the thing that bugs me the most is that for all the nerfing and all the balance changes to the human characters, they haven't dealt with any of the garbage from the DLCs, with the exception of, from what I can see, the Archon is no longer summons enemies relentlessly, which is nice. But the Muradin is still, or Muradin, or whatever you want to call it, stupid flying insect, is still ridiculously OP. They're soul sucking to play against, and so for all the adjustments to the player, that's fine. If you're going to make accompanying changes to the Pandorans, but they don't make any accompanying changes to the Pandorans from what I can see. They're, you know, the DLC enemies are just as annoying and garbage as they always were. I'm pretty sure that Muradins are the reason why most people do not turn on Festering Skies. Because no one wants to deal with them.
Haven destroyed. Asnidian Haven is under attack.
This double frequency attacks is also really annoying. Like, I already said that, but hey. You know, I get it. They wanted to get rid of Terminators. They wanted a game where it wasn't about chaining together kill after kill after kill after kill, and then whichever couple of enemies are left are panicked and you just clean them up. I get it, but that was fun. That was actually fun to do that. And they took that away, but didn't replace it with anything. Or didn't didn't fundamentally change the way the Pandorans are balanced to make the game more standoff and static, right? Like if you took away dash, and I know that dash is on Berserker, but I didn't unlock the technology on this occasion. I might have been able to unlock it at some point. Advanced mutation technology is there, but not basic, which is the one that I would actually want. Anyway, you know, I get that they didn't want the Terminators, but they didn't slow down the Pandorans at all. They didn't slow everything down. You can have a more positional game if everyone is slower. Like, if everyone's moving at 14 speed or something, then dash is not so necessary, and you can have a situation where you've got some snipers and you're picking at the enemy as they're closing in and all that kind of stuff. But you still have the base game balance where enemies are moving at like 20, on average 20 tiles a turn, sometimes more. Everything except like worms are moving at ridiculous speeds. And so the crippling of player tools just means that players are going to need to take gambles. They're just going to have to gamble. And speaking of gambling, the tactics thing, I mean, this is gambling. You know, you might get Void Omens that are really horrible, you might get ones that are not so bad. Then you've got the tactics in the missions themselves, which are also gambling. You may get a tactic that is not that problematic, you might get one that's really, really hard for you to deal with. Well, you don't get a special tactic. There's nothing in it for the player. It's all negative stuff. Void Omens are all against the player, all the tactics are against the player, all the nerfs are against the player. It feels really depressing when they have changed everything to be against the player, and then they haven't replaced those things with anything interesting for the player. You know, once again, I do feel like certain combinations in Phoenix Point were definitely way too powerful. But at least, you know, on a Termes mode, where you've got this damage reduction, lots of weapons have been nerfed into the ground that they were just not that good in the first place. Assault rifles were never particularly good, and they've been nerfed massively. Shotguns were good if you stripped the enemy's armor first, but they've been nerfed into the ground. And, you know, there were plenty of shotguns that no one ever used because they were just inferior. And I feel like that's even more true. The chaos weapons are, you know, quite clearly superior to everything else, and other than their cost, which, you know, their cost is not back-breaking or anything, there's no real disadvantage to them. I mean, what is the disadvantage that the Redemptor has over, you know, any of the other shotguns? I mean, there isn't one. It's just objectively superior. I don't know, man. It's not for me. That's all I can say. So I would like to thank StarSign for sponsoring this. You know, his support was very important to me. Obviously, he sponsored it for... I owed him 2 months of sponsorship, so that would normally be 60 videos, but I'm going to cut this one short because honestly, this battle up here at the ruin was just one of the worst experiences in gaming I've ever had in my life. And I know that modders can't fix the bugs, the performance bugs in this game. Those tedious, lagging turns were just absolutely horrible to endure. The stupid jungle music is like the worst battle theme in a game ever. And I don't know if the lying UI in this case had anything to do with the modders or was just a base game thing. But, you know, again, it's pure frustration. I mean, you know, the UI lies. No one expects the UI to lie to them. The player expects the UI to always be telling the truth. You know, it's really, really important that the UI never lies to you. And we have this issue where the damage that the UI says is going to happen is not the damage that actually happens. And then we got situations where the weapons that the enemies, you know, displayed, the weapons that I was shown that they had, turned out to not be the weapons that they had. And then, you know, there's that bit with where you've got missions where you've got a mission objective in the corner or something to collect some document, and it never clarifies whether, you know, does the mission end when you collect the document or does it not? If you know, do you have to secure or not secure? Sometimes you just go somewhere and do the objective, the mission just ends. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you kill all the enemies and the mission doesn't end until you do the objective. Like, this is all stuff that should be crystal clear in the player's mind as to exactly what they have to do. The mission will complete when you collect the objective, or you have to kill all the enemies and get the objective. And, you know, if all the enemies are dead, just end the mission. This is stuff that we learned 20 years ago to stop doing this thing where you've killed all the enemies but the mission carries on going. Leaving you to slowly, carefully, you know, reload all your guns and rest all your characters and crawl through the map expecting to find enemies. You could waste like 10 or 15 minutes doing that and then find that there are no enemies, and you get to the objective and you complete the objective and the mission just ends, and you just wasted 15 minutes of your life for no reason. Like I wasted 4 hours or 3 hours of everybody's life with that friggin' Andalusian mission. It was just the absolute worst, most garbage experience I've ever had in a turn-based game. If I never play Phoenix Point again, it will be too soon. This is not the only true challenge of this game is being, you know, playing it. Being made to play it. And you know what? If you saw all this, you got this far and you think that this looks like a great time, I mean, the obvious answers to this is to just spam grenades, because grenades are not affected by the balance changes. If anything, it seems like the grenade perks turn up more regularly, so you can actually get, you know, that 10% damage boost on grenades and the extra throw range. I don't get it. I don't get why you would make grenades the optimal weapon. They were already very good in the base game. They were very good for destroying limbs. They're still good at that. They're very good for destroying limbs and weapons, despite the RNG in the blast. And you made them better. But why? Because why nerf everything else but just leave grenades as they were, or leave blast weapons as they were? Because they are the easiest weapons to use. You don't need a line of sight to use them. You can just throw them over stuff. And they also destroy terrain and so on. There are so many advantages to using grenades. The only disadvantage is the inventory space that they take up. They're not even that expensive. They're like 15 points to buy. 5 for the 1 tech and 10 materials. So 15 points is what they cost. And you know, a magazine for a not particularly great rifle costs more, although obviously you get more out of it, but the price difference is not so extreme. And of course, if you sell the weapon and claim that money back, then grenades are extremely economical. So yeah, I don't really get it. It's like the game had the mode has a password, and the password is use grenades. If you don't know the password, in the early game you're going to run into a lot of trouble. If you know the password, then it's easy. You just throw grenades and you clear things out. So anyway, I don't think anyone will responsor this. I certainly hope not. It would take a lot to get me to pick this campaign back up again. So I do technically owe another like 3 episodes, but I'm sure Star Sign will forgive me for not carrying on. As I said, this Ancient Ruins mission was just the absolute worst experience in a turn-based game I've had in decades. And I hope anyone who endured watching that game lag horribly with 8 to 10 minute turns will just appreciate how soul destroying that is. just so awful. But anyway, I mean, I'm sure you could still win the game from here. All the research is ticking along. Just do this mission, clear this nest, grind up the characters. Hopefully not too many more havens get wiped out before we get anywhere, but yeah, it's definitely winnable with determination and grind and another 100 episodes, but I just can't face this game anymore. I've had enough. It's awful. Phoenix Point is awful. Yeah, the most well-intentioned mod cannot save it. And as for the mod, I think strategically it's a big improvement. That's fair to say that they've structured things together well, but the tactical side of it is just like pulling teeth, because they took a load of stuff away. They forced your hand into basically just using grenades all day long. At least for the early and mid game, and no doubt as you get more and more powerful statistically, you get your mutations going, you get your cross class maybe to Berserker or something for dash. You can start to put together some powerful combos. But I just can't be bothered to get there. I just can't be bothered to get to that point. It's just, salty. I do like the marketplace, you know. I think that's also well done. That's another strategic thing. I think a lot of the strategic stuff is well done. But the tactical battles are just stacked against the player unless you know the secret codes, as it were, which is to throw grenades at people. As one person said, I hate, and I'll quote, it said, I hate that this mod only seems to be about throwing grenades. And it really is. For like the early and mid game, that's it, man. Sell your weapons and throw grenades. That's all you really need to do. And you know, it just sucks all the flavor out of the game. But you got to do it. You have to do it because your rifles are so badly nerfed that the grenade is almost doing as much damage as a rifle burst or a sniper rifle burst, but it's also stripping armor and destroying all parts at the same time. And I don't know, man. I don't understand the decision of why would you make it optimal for people to just sell all the early game weapons and fill their characters' inventories with grenades. Because that is optimal. I don't get it. It's not even like grenades are difficult to use or fun to use. Particularly fun. Especially with the weird, you know, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. On rough terrain, they have this thing where they sometimes just weirdly don't do any damage, or they hit like one part or something, you know, they go weird. Unless the ground is flat and empty, they sometimes go a bit strange and you end up throwing like 5 grenades at the same guy. I mean, that's not fun either. I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I think I gave this more than a fair shot. But the Ancient Guardian map, that broke a bit of my soul. Anyone, I would love to hear someone in the comments tell me that is good, that's good gameplay, that's good fun. That's just awful. Right. That's the end of this campaign. I think even if someone made motions to sponsor it, I'd probably just refund them. So, yeah. That's Terror from the Void for you. But more than anything, I don't think Phoenix Point is a game that can be saved. The more I play it, the more I realise it's just a fundamentally flawed game. It's got real problems that I don't think anyone is in a position to solve them. It would require a heavy redesign, and that's just not going to happen. Alright, that's the end of this campaign. I'll see you guys next time.